Why do you persist?
Because I choose to.
It's not often seeing a women's list here, and in honor of International Women's Month, there's no better time. Hey guys, this is the Ekron Writer here, and women isn't a common gender talked about in the gaming community, aside from immature sex appeal. I happen to be a woman myself and a bit of a feminist, so this topic has definitely affected me personally. Women should never be ignored and underappreciated, no matter what the medium. And I'm not judging by their looks nor charm, just how much they impacted me, whether by actions, personality, the usual. And it's been a long time since I did a top 12, specifically on creepiest enemies. So here we are, my top 12 female characters, cause I wanna go 2 steps higher. And as much as you want to see others like Cortana, Bayonetta, or Kasumi on the list, I will not because I wasn't into their own series. This is my list. Make your own top 12. None of the objective crap. And no magical girl stuff either. I'm a tomboy through and through, so don't you dare bring that up. Alright, let's embrace this thing. Barely qualifying for this top 12 is Iris from Mega Man X4. She was just so irresistible to be put on here. She's young, cute as a button, ageless, and she happens to be a Reploid, and was the love interest of the badass Zero, and the younger sister to the Colonel, who actually shares 50% of their genes with one another. Iris also used to be the peacemaker, like most women are, and she grew so infatuated with Zero by the time he saved her from Erigion's captor amongst the destruction of the Sky Lagoon, which then killed many humans and Reploids, thus starting the war. She always distresses over peace than war and fighting, and even goes to great lengths to protecting others. Again, she shares many traits like the Colonel. Regardless, she had her insecurities since both she and the Colonel were still part of Repliforce, thus being labeled as threats. Colonel was about to confront Zero till Iris intervened, reminding Colonel of Zero's rescue. She was still upset Zero was still willing to stop their own command. She eventually received word of Colonel's death by Zero, and she merged with his corps to become the ultimate maverick that the scientists refused them to be, a killing machine. Unfortunately, Zero had to destroy it and Iris with it, never having her dream be realized of Reploids living in a peaceful world. As stated in my couples list, she does have a tragic relationship with Zero, but it doesn't seem to impact me much as it used to, thus only being 12. However, Iris does have some female traits, even though she's only a robot. She's able to express a few feelings, she's not placid nor fake, she has a desire for peace, and she seems supportive to the just cause, if only for a little while. After all, she's a hell of a lot better than Aelita is. Black! While on the subject of digital women, Aelita Stones, or rather Schoffer, is my favorite woman amongst the Lyoko warriors. She also happens to be Jeremy's love interest. In fact, she was once human, not entirely AI, as she was sent into Lyoko, his father's friend Hopper's creation, in order for them to escape from the Men in Black, French government agents who always want to capture them. Unfortunately, they weren't safe as Xana attacked, thus making them hide in one of several control towers. They both tend to have this ability on shutting them down, and since then Aelita remained trapped, though became a vital member of the Lyoko warriors once she met them, allowing her to adapt to Lyoko, gaining her flight, levitation, basic combat, and second sight, which allows her to sense Lyoko's inner workings. If only she could do the same in Reboot. Eventually, the Lyoko warriors were successful on cutting off her link to Lyoko and making her a new identity as Aelita Stones, allowing her to thrive in both worlds. Although she still does live with PTSD escaping from the Men in Black, and has some amnesia while also being the most fragile of the bunch. I happen to like her. Aelita was essential in the success on stopping Xana, and she's a good friend to everyone, including Jeremy. She's a charming, gifted, creative, and unique girl utilizing the best of both worlds, and her backstory was pretty interesting. Her innocence and skills sort of remind me of the next contender here. While most gamers would rather shove Midna or Zelda down our throats, I already mentioned Navi and Malon, but I never covered the one female in the Juggernaut that impacted me the most, the ageless Kokiri, Saria. Why is she better in my eyes than Midna and the others? I'll tell you. Saria was one of the ladies I grew attached to the second I saw her, and she was one of the characters you'll encounter early in the game. You see, for the past decade living in the forest, Link was always bullied by the other kids, especially Mido, due to his unique status as an outcast being a Hylian and having no fairy. Saria was the only true friend Link ever had, and she really does hate Mido's destructive attitude towards him. Saria was always the supportive and nourishing one, and also the wisest despite her age. The Kokiri are ageless and stay as kids, like the Neverland cliché. And she always understood how Link was so different, even being so open-minded with him. But on one fateful day, she went into a sleep state for 7 years, but her song still guided Link through. And she's just a talented musician as well. I don't go by that sages were dead theory, and even though she was the first sage to be awakened, and while their destinies kept drifting them apart, their loyalty and undying friendship keeps them together in dire times. Saria impacted me so much that I let her be the guardian of the forest with my trainer's grass and bug types, even reconciled with Mido, and making Navi as her fairy partner. Impa was very close to be on the list. Maybe I'll cover her some other time, but until then the adorable, caring, and young, though sagacious Saria shall always be my definitive woman in the Zelda series. You don't always have to be older to be impactful. Wish she'd be covered more.
I have been, and always shall be, your friend.
For the bouncer, I was going to include Dominique on the list. However, there was one other that was more meaningful than that ageless android. Sion's more tragic flame, Chaldea Orchid. Chaldea was the main man's best friend since early childhood, even when they were teens. Much like Saria, she was very encouraging and supportive to him, despite not being interested in combat, even when he was going through stressful training under his sensei Wong. She seemed intrigued of the fighter training himself, although she was frail and easily queasy. There was a time when his master left him alone as there was suspicious activity from Mikado. She tried to cheer him up as he never returned and encouraged him she'd still support him, till she got the position to the prestigious Mikado group. Sion then spent nearly all his money on a special gift, a pendant as a reward. However, that was the last time before the explosive incident. Her parents were in turmoil and Sion had been living like an edgelord and vagabond. For 2 years, Sion never saw her again, till he had some restored memories as he was looking through secret intel on a Mikado laptop, as well as reluctantly recalling her a decade ahead of her youth, thanks to Bionoid technology. In other words, Doragon, in a desperate attempt to replicate his lost sister, used some of Chaldea's cells and be experimented on. Project A2 had her age a good number of years, thus not making Sion recognize her. Until they reached the Gallios! Up to 4 times in the game, Chaldea transforms into a Black Panther as a result from her being used as a clone and byproduct. She revealed to Sion that her master erased her existence by executing the explosion, as a way to hold her hostage against her will, only that she has sympathy for Doragon's tragedy, though his domineering personality. Sadly, Chaldea can die in different ways, whether it be from battle, escorting the bouncers out of the Gallios before it separates, or when she gets killed by a chain in point-blank range. Regardless of her cause, Chaldea always seems sweet but also fragile, and according to the manual, sorrowful. This seems like a perfect representation of her being held against her will as a test subject, having her identity lost, and soon perishing for good, even if she was a clone. My heart still does break for her from time to time because of the many sacrifices she had to endure. I do feel pity for Chaldea mostly, but I'm just so glad Sion still has a loved one to look out for him. Out of all the women in the F-Zero series, I always have a love-hate relationship with Miss Killer. Lucy was close, Mrs. Era was meh, and Jodie Summer I just flat out despise. So I guess the Femme Fatale would have to do. I'm sure Customar is going to gush right now. The Deadly Diva goes by 3 names, Miss Killer in the Japanese version, Luna Ryder in the English version, or her original identity, Haruka Masaki. Originally, she was known as the Racing Queen, as she was a very talented Formula One racer back in her heyday. She was also friends with a cop named Rose, who introduced her to her soon-to-be lover, Rick Wheeler. He was struggling as a rookie, but she was the one who encouraged him to follow his dream, and thus was known as an auto racing champion for 2 years. He was even about to propose to her, until that fateful tragic day when Rick wound up in cold sleep for 150 years. Heartbroken, she went on the warpath to hunt down his murderer Zoda. He was ambushed in the East Bank, however, since there were freezing drones. They were both caught in the crossfire, thus being resurrected, and in her case brainwashed by Black Shadow. Much like in my timeline, she had her identity changed to a more gothic and edgy approach, and she was voiced by the awesome former actress Karen Manuel. Since then, she had served as the Emperor's right-hand woman, and she always reminds me of Sindel from Mortal Kombat for similar reasons. Her heel face turn sort of inspired me to create my first and only AMV as well. She was eventually able to retain her memories with Rick near the end of the series. However, it felt too late in my eyes. I was disappointed that after she was captured, frozen in carbonite, and returned to normal by the Dark Stars and Black Shadows, or in my story's Deathborn's destruction, she reunited with her old flame and became engaged, even replacing Bert as head of the Falcon House, though he was still alive in my fics. And she just functioned as a spiritual companion to Rick, till she was able to rest after her suicide. She's low on the list as I had different interpretations of her in my fics, and I was just very disappointed with her role as the anime finished itself. Though she did make us a serious, capable villain. Much like me, I can be warm-hearted, but when push comes to shove, I can be edgy and merciless, even apathetic. Also, her machine, the Moon Shadow, was a very versatile machine. I was impressed that Dark Million had a woman joining their ranks. A competent one at that. Especially since she retains all that skill from a century and a half. I wonder if anyone else thought her machines be associated to the Cat Stevens song, Moon Shadow. Hot damn! While I'm a fan of Rouge the Bat, I already covered her in my top 10 Chiropterans list. Same case with Cream in my Rodents list. So who else should be my female representative of the Sonic series? No. No. No! Oh, for God's sakes, it's Blaze! It's ironic I chose Blaze out of everyone, considering I wasn't into her debut game Sonic Rush, nor am I much of a cat person. But I was into her on the other games in the Juggernaut. It was through mainly the Great Clement how I learned so much about her and liked her. She was kind of like love at first sight, whether it be her regal appearance, her many pyrotic abilities, the fact that she's a princess who also happens to be a tomboy, and the interesting lore of living in the soul dimension, collects soul emeralds, absorbs and utilizes power from the sun, and that she faces off with her own nemesis, Eggman Nega. It was also quite interesting how she was a close partner and love interest to Silver, despite on how pathetic Sonic 06 is and disregarding it as canon. Just like another princess I know, her boundaries as soul royalty does tend to make her shy and a bit antisocial. But thanks to spending time with Sonic and his pals, she gradually changed for the better, and balances her strict duties and friendship quite nicely. I always hold strong feminists, even tomboys, in high regard, and it was quite reassuring that she's definitely not like those weak damsels like Elise and Amy. She was as rare of a gem as Sally, Cream, and Rouge. Amongst many other conflicting differences, for once I can understand why others such as Josh and Phoenix King love her so much. There was just no freaking way I was going to miss out on Dixie Kong. She was one of the earliest female video game characters I ever gotten attached to. I was only 8 when Diddy's Conquest came out, and I was ecstatic enough when DKC got a sequel. But Dixie just jacked up my excitement to 11. Dixie Kong was one of the best all-time favorite debut characters in all of gaming, not just in Donkey Kong, no lie. It was awesome that Diddy Kong finally got a girlfriend and close partner replacing the captured Donkey Kong. And no matter who you play as, their momentum's the same. I love it. She's so damn adorable, even in first glance. And it definitely proved the cynical Cranky Kong wrong when it came to girl heroes in video games. See, women don't always have to wield a gun like Lara Croft. And even Shantae was inspired by her hair-twirling techniques. It's too bad that her potential was wasted, as she was only either as a trophy or a spirit, materialistic matters in Smash, when she could easily replace the Squeenix swordsman and the overbearing Fire Emblem cast. God damn it! She can glide, spin and attack, only using her ponytail, which is very versatile. She can perform nearly the same ways Diddy can do, including her bubblegum gun and climbing. And she's one of the most amazing petites and girly girls in all of video games. She kicks so much tail in 2 games in a row, even being the lead in DKC 3, and is still going strong. Barely qualified for the top 5, but regardless, she has as much more talent than those other petty chosen smashers. She definitely deserves more praise than she's been getting as of late. Krystal was just begging to be on this list. And why not? Just like Dixie, I was instantly infatuated with her, even when it was first pre-established as soon as you play Star Fox Adventures. Just like Dixie, I find her to be incredibly underrated, as she was the Star Fox counterpart of that Dinosaur Planet character of the same name. Everyone always hated Krystal, as she was a ripoff of her, even the game she was based from. So unfair since I never encountered the OG game, and like Dixie, she was poorly represented in Smash, where she has so much potential. Whether it be her close relationship with Fox as highlighted in my couples list, a minor character introduced as a troubled soul from the lost planet Serenia, being the mom of Marcus, an aspiring figure to the Star Fox team including Next Gen, not counting as Cursed, nor the Bounty Hunter. She's adorable and caring even to the dinosaurs, she's heroic, she's interesting as a telepath, she's capable on doing the things the team does, for the most part, and I much rather consider Fox to be her lover rather than sibling. Just like Phoenix King, I consider her to be one of my utmost favorite female characters. That cute vixen deserves a lot more respect than she currently is receiving. Way more. Of course. My favorite white mage and lover in all of Final Fantasy has made it on this top 12. Everything about her makes it all the more incredible, even surpassing others of her own kind. Let's list off those factors. She's elegant and fair as her very own hair, She's incredibly skilled as a healer and archer, even mastering the hefty holy spell and other magic that takes a lot of time and energy. She's often strong in taking some damage. She became the noble queen of the Baron, with her old flame Cecil as its benevolent king. She's the proud mom inheriting her prowess onto their son Theodore, even staying loyal when Cecil became corrupt by the Maenads, even through Kane's betrayals by Golbez twice. She's versatile in defending the heroes with her various spells and magic and physical defense, even offensively. She helps people adapt to environments by levitating, recuperation, even deflecting some lethal spells like Kirby. I always envied on how compassionate while also being emotionally and physically strong. Rosa should indeed be the mistress to all Final Fantasy ladies. So much so that I made her play some vital roles in my fanfics, especially the two-parter. It was pretty much the very first white mage and lady I ever encountered, as when I was 4 when I played my first Final Fantasy game for the Super Nintendo, even in RPGs. No one has ever topped her, no matter how elegant and skilled they were. Not even others in 4 like Porum, not even Yuna, Terra, and Celeste can come close, nor those in the after years. Even her own theme song is so good to listen to, whether it be the original and its many remixes. No wonder her song was used as a warm-up for school bands in Japan. That is respect. Bottom line, while she was only a prisoner once, that doesn't mean she's incompetent. Far from it. Rosa played a big role in terms of nostalgia, grace and expertise as a vital, adaptable warrior, and has excellent nurturing both in and out of battle. She plays a very supportive and encouraging part in all of Final Fantasy. No other white mage nor woman can possibly replicate. The third entry on this list is one of the official female Pokemon. While most of them are either genderless or 50-50, it's often rare to see a classified species of a certain gender. In this case, let's give credit to the OG Pokemon that began this awesome distinctive trend. Besides Nidorina and Nidoran, the majesty of the poison types, Nidoqueen. Hell to the yes! This ground shaker and poison pin has always been my favorite female Pokemon and poison type. Ever since I was a tween when I discovered her from the official Pokemon handbook. She was so irresistible. I couldn't wait to play as her. She's very strong both offensively and defensively in battle. She does have many similarities to Nidoking in terms of learning up a ginormous moveset from all types, excepting Flying and Bug. She also tends to have a motherly instinct on protecting her young from harm. I always considered her as a mom of her kin. She does have more defense than Nidoking does, but the drawback is that she and Nidorina cannot breed. Weird. Also, it's awkward too when Mewtwo returns. It's shown there's such a thing as baby Nidoqueens. Ugh. Might want to cover up her upper body a little. Maybe it's just the feminist in me that prefers Nidoqueen over her male counterpart, as I always like Nidorino instead. She too was one of the popular Pokemon chosen in a lot of movies, even as one of Mewtwo's clones. Plus, I think she's more versatile as it does require stamina in tough situations, despite having an equal extraordinary move pool. And she, along with her pre-evolutions, introduced the gender species. Ladies do come first, I suppose. These last two entries seem to conflict with one another, almost as endless as a feudal toxic fandom. But after several weeks of reflection and intense research, I finally came to the final decision. In second place is Samus Aran from the Metroid series. Owen is gonna gush over this. I'm sure you guys were expecting Samus to be on here, but maybe not this low. I'm certain everyone was expecting to be number 1, right? Well, not really. Don't get me wrong, she does bring the Nintendo female protagonists or any video game protagonist to life. Samus was just born as the heroine and the savior of the galaxy. And it's about time, considering the pre-established women were mediocre at best. The Metroid series often makes me feel like a rat trapped in a maze, but that doesn't mean I can't idolize Samus. She's very assertive when she became a bounty hunter and ex-warrior of the Federation. She was born in planet K2L, and she became an orphan once the space pirates and Ridley invaded, until she was adopted by the Chozo and was raised as a versatile, adaptable, and independent warrior. Once she was assigned by the Federation, including Adam Malkovich, she became her intergalactic missions in stopping the space pirates, as well as the Metroids wreaking havoc. She was given the power suit, which established her to perform extraordinary abilities and collect various weapons, even putting an end to Ridley, Mother Brain, the X-Parasites, even her own doppelgangers. Especially when she absorbed DNA from other intergalactic life forms. No other female has ever done that. Samus has been highly regarded as one of the best and most profound female protagonists, even trumping over those like Zelda, Princess Peach, Cortana, Bayonetta, and many other women. It was such a rarity having a lady lead on a whole series and be the main character, but Samus Aran once revealed in the end of the OG game was quite the jaw-dropper. To me, it wasn't until her role in the OG Smash Bros. That made me realize this, and I've been hooked ever since. She inspired me so much, and she even became a vital part in my reboot multi-universe. Hell, I'm sure Metroid can be closely associated with the CGI series. Since her surprising revelation, her fame and vast otherworldly talents, everyone's been trying and failing to replicate the beauty within and without the power suit. It clearly doesn't matter in terms of appearance, but rather what you bring to the table, and Samus excels in all departments. She was one of the few females that demonstrates how strong, competent, resourceful, sharp in looks and mind, and how she proves that women can accomplish amazing feats, and grinds those incompetent damsels into the pavement. I can only think of one better. Alright, we finally highlighted all of the 11 beautiful and awesome females in video games. But before we get to the best lady of them all, let's bring out some honorable mentions. Out of all the previous inspirational women in video games, and out of all the female entries in this particular juggernaut, there was always one that topped them all. She was my main ma'am ever since I was a kid, and still impacts me to this day both in and out of video games. Ladies and mental gins, in first place is none other than... Kitana from Mortal Kombat. Surprise? That's good. She's the definitive female in video games throughout my entire life, even now. Even more and sooner than Samus. Ever since her debut in Mortal Kombat 2, when I was around 6 or 7, she was love at first sight next to those like Baraka, Mileena, and Kung Lao. I mean, how could we resist a female ninja who looks great, wields fans, which is something we don't see very often, and possesses incredible combative skills? She's just as versatile and awesome as Samus is. And best of all, she's a princess who never disappointed me. Till years later. Kitana's the 10,000-year-old Adenian and the daughter of Queen Sindel and King Gerard. Though their kingdom was invaded by the Imperial Emperor of Outworld Shao Kahn after Adenia lost 10 Mortal Kombat tournaments. In order to attain the throne, he adopted her as his own daughter, and she'd been in the gray ever since. It was always ambiguous whether or not she was good or evil, even as mysterious as her best friend Jade. But it wasn't just the games that got me intrigued. It was mostly thanks to the Threshold classics and Defenders of the Realm and the OG movie, much how I love Kuai Liang. It was soon discovered she was willing to overthrow her power-hungry parent, and she'd been through so much shit by the time she encountered her doppelganger Mileena, and her mother was resurrected and took the side of evil during Khan's invasion. Like I said, Miss Killer does remind me of Sindel. Kitana's name was actually a mashup between her signature weapon, the katana, well, other than the fans, and also one of my favorite animals, a kitsune. Can't get any better than that. I bet she was inspired by the Sheikah in Zelda, or vice versa, on account of her interesting lineage, being the princess of her realm, possessing extraordinary talent including magic, and having quite the longevity which humans can't replicate. Unlike many consumers, I never got into her looks alone. Her swift, flexible abilities made her intriguing, as was her promising legacy as the heir of Adenia. Sure, she was brainwashed and functioned as the villain at times, which became stale, but my interests for the most part never wavered. Her faction as being the queen of the Netherrealm with Liu Kang left me pissed off, but it wasn't for the majority. Speaking of the champion, I wish I made their relationship higher. He was the reason how Kitana became a heroine, allying against evil, and having their love interest flourish. Like Blaze the Cat, she does have boundaries, but his likable personality and his thwarting over evil made her have a change of heart. I wish she'd be more officially just like their mutuality in MK11, maybe 12 as well. Kitana may not be one of the strongest combatants physically, but always on an emotional level. She's been inspirational since back in the early 90s and is still growing strong. And I want all women and female characters to be just like her. Versatile, proud in who they are, confident, strong and independent, inspiring greatness, and standing up for what is right and just make the world a better place. Looks don't really matter much, only actions and personality does. While most gamers usually look up to Solid Snake, Bayonetta, Master Chief, or perhaps either version of Shepard, Kitana is just as idolizing as they are, if not a whole lot more. She's original, she's adjustable, riveting, and undoubtedly phenomenal. For all her unique abilities, and all her valiant deeds that can inspire all realms, even trumping over Saria in many ways. I'm the Ikran writer, and just like Nightwolf and Kung Lao, Kitana will always be one of my all-time favorite characters in Mortal Kombat, and my topmost female character in video games and all media. She's more than just a stunning model. She happens to be my own role model.
Are you ready?
Yes. But no matter how we sculpt the sands, we cannot plan for every possibility. Mortals will make their own choices. New evils will arise.
Each realm must choose its own destiny. Whatever those choices, we will face them together.